we are going to move into my mock draft 3.0. So what I started out by saying was that I actually had the 49ers making a trade, as well as I had the Dolphins making a trade. I just didn't have them trading with each other. That was where obviously I was wrong. Predicting the future somewhat, of course, a little cryptic. Can't give you all the details of the future as I see it, but anyways, yeah, so starting off with my mock draft, nothing changes in the first 2 picks. If anything, the first 2 picks become even more confirmed with the way that the recent trades have gone. So number 1 overall, Trevor Lawrence to the Jaguars. It was hilarious if you watched Trevor Lawrence's pro day, just because I've never seen this before, but it like makes sense because he's like guaranteed the number 1 overall pick. But Urban Meyer, the coach of the Jaguars, who are picking here Trevor Lawrence, was standing like 5 yards in front of Trevor Lawrence the whole pro day, just talking to the head coach. And that was like the entire pro day. So it was just like, I heard an announcer equate it perfectly, and they said that it's equated to like a person who's bought a car and is taking it out for a test drive. Like that's what it looks like, honestly. So that guaranteed 100% Trevor Lawrence done. They mail it in. That's not even a thought. They shouldn't. If I swear to God, if the NFL, because the NFL is going to do this, and I hate that they do this every year because we always know who the first pick is going to be. But every year, the freaking first pick, they always have like the timer starts and the clock is on or something, whatever they say, and then they try to like build excitement with like, who are they going to pick, and it's like. So it's just like, come on, we know who they're going to pick. We don't need to put a timer on the screen. Like I get that that's a thing, but like. But anyways, number 3 overall, San Francisco 49ers take Mac Jones. I was kind of shocked initially because I thought that the 49ers really, really liked Trey Lance, and I thought that was who potentially they would trade up for or go for. It turns out that they do like Trey Lance a lot, but they like Mac Jones a lot more. What that means is that Mac Jones is 100% going to be the number 3 overall pick here. You don't trade up to the 3rd pick and not take a quarterback, that's your guy. And from all accounts and all people associated with that program, as well as knowing Shanahan, he wants Mac Jones. That's who he likes. That's who he loves. He's going there. So 100%. And then, yeah, they're going to, and then also following up this kind of comment there. Yeah, you're getting Jimmy G get traded. They think they're going to get a 1st-round pick for Jimmy G. I don't know what world they think that's going to happen, especially when you come out and say that you think you're going to get a 1st-round pick. Nobody's going to offer you a 1st-round pick. It doesn't make any sense to me, but yeah, so the Mac Jones goes here at number 3. And then number 4, I kind of toiled with number 4 a little bit because we talked about the Atlanta Falcons trading, and going back to the comment earlier about if the Falcons are actually going to make this trade. I don't think they do. And I think that it's just going to take too much for teams to move up to 4. The asking price is going to be too high. And I think that they're already seeing Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Mac Jones, who I think, even though Mac Jones in my ranking of quarterbacks isn't as high as some of the other ones, I think that those are the 3 that can start tomorrow in the NFL. It's hard to trade up to the number 4 spot and argue that you're going to take a quarterback that is better than those players. I do think that obviously Trey Lance, Kellen Mond, I think in my opinion are better than Mac Jones and have a higher potential and higher ceiling. I just think that right now with all the hype around the media, the way that it goes, the way that they favor guys, I think it's hard to argue that you're going to take anybody at 4 over those 3. So I think the Falcons, which in my opinion makes sense for them, I think the Falcons take Trey Lance here just because for them it makes a ton of sense to get a quarterback who needs maybe a year of development, which again, I kind of said in my video, I think that Trey Lance needs a year to develop. I think he has a higher potential than Mac Jones for sure, and higher even than Justin Fields. I just think that he needs a year to learn because I don't want him to get ruined in an organization or anything like that. So for me, Trey Lance is one of those guys where he'll sit behind Matt Ryan for a year. Matt Ryan next year, if he gets cut, will save the Falcons like $20+ million. So that gives them incentive to cut Matt Ryan next year. But it does allow him to stay here for this year and allows Trey Lance to basically to kind of learn behind him. And then the other thing too is you got Julio Jones there and everything like that, who I think most likely will get traded next year. If they do keep him around because they draft Trey Lance, it'd be interesting. But yeah, and then the Cincinnati Bengals round out my top 5. Kyle Pitts has just so much hype around him, and I've talked about him in previous videos and previous podcasts as being one of my favorite prospects that I've ever seen in my life. And the reason why is because you cannot argue a 6'6", 240-pound man playing a hybrid tight end wide receiver position, running a 4-4, and just being that freaking good. It's absurd. And yes, only a wide receiver. He's listed at tight end. He's going to end up being the Travis Kelce. If you look at Travis Kelce's not asked to be on the line blocking. Like that's not how Travis Kelce's used. He's used as a wide receiver usually that lines up kind of in the slot position or a split tight end. So that's how he's going to be used in the NFL, and he's going to be unbelievable at it. And I think it is spectacular for him to get drafted here by the Bengals, because I think it gives a target for Burrow to have for probably the next 5 to 10 years even, who's going to be easily one of the best wide receiver tight ends in the league immediately, because that's just how good he is. It's just he has no weaknesses in his game as far as I can see. And yeah, it might take a little bit of a transition to the NFL because every player does, but it's just he's not going to fail. He's one of my guaranteed superstars in this draft. There's only 2 guys in my opinion that are guaranteed superstars that cannot fail no matter what, and he's one of the 2. So,
and who's the other one?
The other one we will get to in a moment, Dylan. Okay. Can't jump ahead. Get too excited there.
Let's reveal the next 5.
Yeah. Next 5. So we have Jamar Chase at number 6. I think Jamar Chase is probably the best wide receiver in the draft. I like him a little bit more than Devontae Smith, and that's only because Jamar Chase, to me, feels a little bit safer of a pick, but also the same kind of quality and talent and route running that you're seeing out of Devontae Smith. The reason why I say safer, Devontae Smith is a $170 and, a good day. And that, to me, is a little scary when you have a lot of DBs that are coming into the league and, 220 pounds, or if he's being covered by a cover linebacker who's fast. You're talking a linebacker hitting a guy who's $170 all the time. It seems like he's bound for injury. And so that's what scares me a little bit. He's a little bit Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown, I think, is a little faster. I think Devontae Smith, a better route runner. That's just kind of the way that I feel about him. I do think that he's a great receiver. I just think that Jamar Chase is a hair better and a little bit more confident drafting him. So yeah, Jamar Chase right here to the Dolphins. And the Dolphins made an incredibly intelligent move by trading back and then getting back into the 6th pick, because it allows them to take a guy who I thought they would have probably taken at 3 if they didn't even make a trade in Jamar Chase, and still get picks for it. So, good trade for them. And that's, the way that goes. And then Devontae Smith to the Lions. The Lions need a wide receiver. I saw in a couple of mock drafts they had the Lions taking Justin Fields. I don't think Fields is going to fall to I don't think he's going to go to the Lions. I don't think the Lions are going to do that, because I think they just traded for Jared Goff. And if you're going to give Jared Goff at least a year to see, and there's a couple of quarterbacks coming out of the draft next year that are interesting, that I definitely think could be interesting prospects and picks right there for the Lions. I think it's just too hard to pass up on a wide receiver who
replaced Kenny Galladay too.
Yeah, it replaced Kenny Galladay especially. And one thing Kenny Galladay kind of struggled with, he is a very good wide receiver overall, but one thing Kenny Galladay struggled with was getting open off of good coverage. And I think Devontae Smith can do that with his route running. So it's just one of those where I think at the end of the day, they don't pick a quarterback. I think they just go with what they immediately need, which is a wide receiver, and they get a guy who was the Heisman. So, I mean, what are you going to, you're not, bringing that pick home and people are complaining. So, right. And then the number 8 overall pick, which is my number 2 superstar can't fail wide receiver or player, is Penei Sewell. Penei Sewell is not going to fail in the NFL. I mean, he's just like 6'6", 320 for a left tackle, right tackle, who no matter what position, like either one, right or left tackle, he's going to be like a Joe Thomas for your next 10 years of your team. And the Panthers trading for Sam Darnold made me go, okay, they're not taking a quarterback, because they wouldn't have made the trade if they weren't confident that they could get a quarterback that would fall to them or that they could trade for. So that means that they didn't like the quarterbacks that were available at their position that they were drafting. So what did they do? They trade for Sam Darnold. So then what's next? Well, they have a really good right tackle. So what do they need? A good left tackle. And boom, you solidify both tackles positions. You have a decent interior on that offensive line. You get Sam Darnold with Christian McCaffrey coming back. You get DJ Moore. You get Robbie Anderson. That was the name I couldn't remember earlier. Coming from the Jets, who's a deep threat who Darnold's familiar with and connected well with. So, bam, that suddenly the Panthers look like an interesting team if Darnold pans out. And I think that puts him in the best case scenario, too. So, drafting Penei Sewell is a guy that is not going to fail and is going to be your left tackle no matter what. If Darnold doesn't work out or if you have to move a different direction, you have your left tackle ready to go, which is, something that a lot of teams can't say. So, number 9, Justin Fields, I think falls this far because I think that he's getting a lot of interestingly bad rep going into the draft. Now, I'm an Ohio State fan. I live and die Ohio State. I have their flag right here off screen. You can't see it. It's on my wall. I've been an Ohio State fan diehard since I was, able to watch football and comprehend what I was seeing. So I've watched almost every game and have watched Justin Fields his entire time at Ohio State. And one of the biggest issues with him, in my opinion, is his inconsistency. And then it does feel like at times he doesn't work hard enough. And I had a commenter argue that he had done some leadership things off screen and everything. So, off thing, and then I'll address that in 1 second. I've seen that argument, and I get that, but what my big thing about him is that I don't think that he plays consistently well enough in order to warrant being a higher pick, as well as I don't think he has the higher success or potential in the NFL because of that inconsistency and because of there's a lot of talk around the organization and people that know are close to the organization and insiders that have talked about how potentially he doesn't have a great work ethic, which does not bode well if you want to be one of the best quarterbacks in the draft, let alone the league. So that's a lot of issues and a lot of red flags. So that's why he falls. Now, does he go to the Broncos? That makes the most sense to me because the Broncos, if you look at their offense, Bulls, their left tackle finally started playing super well this year. Wide receivers, they got Cortland Sutton, who I loved coming out of the draft initially. I actually had really hoped that he had gone to the Bears because the Bears needed a wide receiver help at the time. He didn't. Ended up going to the Broncos and being very good there. Jerry Jeudy last year was an incredible draft pick. He's one of the best. He was one of the best route runners coming out of the draft last year, and is one of the purists. Run every route in the tree. And then KJ Hamler coming out of Penn State was awesome too because he's a fantastic slot utility speedster that can be used anywhere in the offense. So I think that really, and then Noah Fant coming, becoming more and more successful with that offensive line getting a little bit boasted too. Definitely Justin Fields feels like that's the guy that they're going to go with to battle with Drew Lock, and whoever wins that battle is going to be the starting quarterback day one. Right. And then finally rounding out the top 10, and then I'll kind of get your opinion on it as well as answer the question that I saw there. Patrick Surtain goes in at 10. He is the best corner in the draft, in my opinion. Caleb Farley is up there. So is JC Horn with his incredible pro day that he put together, as well as his film is amazing too. Those are 3 corners right there that interchangeably could be really great. Either of them, you'd be happy getting. Patrick Surtain, in my opinion, is just the best. He's the most solid. He's the most reliable. He has the prototypical number 1 corner size, being 6'2". So he, to me, feels like a no doubt he won't fail in the NFL at all because he's just that good. So he's going to immediately slide in there and help them out, especially after they lost their corner. Can't remember his name, but they lost him to the Dolphins last year. So a little disappointing. But anyways, how do you feel about that top 10? Anything surprise you? Anything you find interesting?
I think it was interesting that the Panthers would, what was it? I was interested that the Falcons would take a quarterback. I feel like you're still right about that. Although I like hearing the reports say that they're trying to trade out. I fully expect them to for like a quarterback needy team, maybe, and then they'll still roll the dice on Matt Ryan this year and then really suck after he's gone. Maybe. I don't know. I feel like they could also trade out because this like top 5 and whatever is still super valuable, so they could absolutely double down on their draft capital going in here. This is super interesting to me because like this is definitely taking the this is like the offense over protection. pick, obviously, because they could get Sewell, and that would be, everyone really wants them to and projects them to. This is like doubling down on, okay, we just want to, you could deal with the line you got, the Russell Wilson, the Seattle type of strategy. We're just like, we'll give you weapons. We don't really care about what's in front of you, which would be really interesting. And I can't say one way or the other if I really believe what they're going to do, but if they double down on that and he gets hurt again, like, oh boy, that's going to blow up in their face and look bad. Also, Justin Fields falling all the way to the Broncos, that would be crazy with how much he's been talked about recently. If he does, though, like the Broncos are absolutely have to drop Locke or whatever and then move on keep him as a backup or whatever. But if he fell that far and the Broncos really got him, like they'd be way more of an interesting team, like out of the gate, because right now they've just been boring because it's really sad, i.e. the Bears, to have like a somewhat complete team and then just have the quarterback you just know just isn't fun, interesting, or this is bad. So this would instantly flip them around and like to being a contender, especially with Fangio's defense, and if assuming Fields works out and translates the NFL pretty well. So interesting top 10. It says a lot about each team, about what they're going to do. The top 3, I don't really have too many discussions about, or too many opposing opinions about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And just a couple things. One, yeah, I agree with Seattle and the Rams would be interesting to trade up for. I don't know who they would trade up for. You'll see my picks later on for who I have for Seattle specifically. Rams don't have a first round pick. That's from the Jalen Ramsey trade. The Bears do have a first round pick. That's the 20th overall pick. We'll see that a little bit later, who I think they're going to draft. I think they stay put just because I don't think they're going to be able to trade up and have enough my thinking with the way that I did it and the way that Justin Fields falls is that the teams above him picked needs that they need desperately and the players are too good to pass up for, that they don't make trades to trade down. And that's why I ended up thinking that maybe the Broncos get Justin Fields fall to them because of that factor. So like the Bengals going for Kyle Pitts, that seems like there's just too much hype around Kyle Pitts, and that's why he's going to end up getting there. Miami, Jamar Chase, I would have picked Jamar Chase at 3 if Miami still had the 3rd overall pick for them. So now that they, have the 6th pick, they're going to draft him, and the rest, makes sense to me at least. So,
yeah.
All right.
Oh, it'll be interesting. Side note, just something else I thought of as well. Do you think it's basically a symptom of COVID that so many teams are jumping up in giving up draft capital like crazy because they got to work with the cap crush pretty much? So like they're saying like, hey, like that's fine. I'll eat the loss on draft capital, but we absolutely need an impact player now because we cannot pay for them in free agency, period.
It's hard because I don't know if it's so much so that it's money and stuff like that. I think teams have kind of figured that out now. They've had to deal with it and they've figured it out. I think it's more about the 49ers, for instance. That was them trading up because they want Mac Jones. That's their guy. That's who Shanahan's in love with. So they have to go get him. They actually called to trade up to 2 for the Jets, and the Jets basically said no, which again, they're drafting Zach Wilson. But obviously the 49ers pulled the trigger on the trade, and the reason why they pulled the trigger is because they know that Zach Wilson's off the board, so is Trevor Lawrence. So what does that mean? One of the other quarterbacks they fell in love with, and it ends up being Mac Jones. So that's why I think they go Mac Jones there. I don't think it's about money anymore, because I think teams have kind of figured that out with all the 1-year deals and void years and all that. I think now it's a matter of just when you fall in love with your guy and you go get him, that kind of thing.
Yeah.